I was just collecting trash. That's it. That's all this was supposed to be. No investigation, no curiosity, no reason to remember this day any differently than the thousands before it. When you do this job long enough, everything blends together. The streets, the houses, the bins lined up like they always are. Most mornings start the same way. It's still dark. The air is cold. The world feels paused. You hear distant traffic, a dog barking somewhere far off, your own footsteps on the pavement. Most people are still asleep. You don't think about what you're picking up. You're trained not to. You grab the bag, you lift, you throw it into the truck, and you move on. That routine becomes automatic, almost comforting, until something breaks it. That morning didn't feel different at first. Same route I'd done dozens of times, same houses, same stretch of road. I wasn't rushed, I wasn't distracted. I was just doing my job. I reached one particular house and rolled the bin closer to the truck. Nothing unusual about it. No warning signs, no mess, no reason to hesitate. Inside were a few black garbage bags, stacked like they always are. I grabbed the first one, and the second my hands closed around it, I felt something was off. Not heavy the way trash usually is, not overfilled, not soggy, just dense. The weight didn't shift when I lifted it. It stayed compact, solid. I adjusted my grip, thinking maybe it was just packed tightly. But the longer I held it, the more uncomfortable it felt, like the bag didn't want to move. I lowered it back to the ground. That alone should tell you how strange it felt. Trash collectors don't usually stop. You don't pause, you don't reconsider. You just keep moving. I told myself I was overthinking it. People throw out weird things all the time. Broken appliances, construction debris, stuff they don't want to deal with anymore. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. That's when I noticed the knot. It was tied tight, not careless, not rushed, deliberate. Like whoever tied it didn't want the bag opening under any circumstances. That thought stuck with me longer than it should have. I stood there longer than I'm proud of, long enough to start noticing details I'd usually ignore. The street was quiet, too quiet, no lights on in nearby houses, no cars passing by, just me, standing next to a trash bin, holding a bag I suddenly didn't want to touch. Then the smell hit me. Not garbage, not spoiled food, not chemicals. Something unfamiliar. Something that didn't belong on a curb at 6 in the morning. That was the moment the doubt crept in. Not fear yet, just a warning. The kind you feel before you realize why. I remember telling myself to stop thinking, to do my job, to throw the bag in the truck, and forget about it. But instead, I did the one thing I wasn't supposed to do. I looked. I loosened the knot just enough to open the bag a few inches. Not all the way, just enough to see inside. And that's when everything changed. Inside the bag was something wrapped, not loose, not random, carefully wrapped, layered, like someone had taken their time. My stomach dropped immediately, because this wasn't trash. This wasn't something someone casually threw away. This was something they didn't want found. I froze. My hands tightened around the bag without me realizing it. My heart started racing. I looked up and down the street, suddenly aware of how exposed I was. Anyone watching would have seen me standing there, staring into a garbage bag, like I'd forgotten what I was doing. But there was no one, no movement, no witnesses, just silence, and the weight of what I was holding finally settling in. I remember thinking one thing very clearly. If I threw this bag into the truck like every other one, it would be crushed, buried, gone, and whatever was inside it would disappear forever. No questions, no record, just another load of trash on its way out of town. I stood there staring at that bag, realizing how easy it would be to pretend I never saw it, and how impossible it would be to forget it if I did. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at the bag, knowing I couldn't unsee what I'd already seen. My heart was pounding, Not because I understood everything yet, but because I understood enough. This wasn't garbage. This wasn't something someone accidentally threw away. And suddenly the job I'd done 1,000 times felt very different. I glanced toward the truck. The back was open. The compactor waiting. One motion, one toss. And whatever this was would be gone. No record, no trace. That thought sat heavy in my chest because it made me realize how easy it is for things to disappear. Not because someone hides them well, but because no one is looking for them. I tied the knot back up. My hands were shaking. I tried to steady them. I set the bag down carefully, not like trash, like evidence. I took a step back, then another. I remember looking at the house again. Still quiet, still dark, no doors opening, no curtains moving. For a moment, I wondered if someone was watching me from inside. That thought sent a chill through me. I told myself to breathe, to slow everything down. I had a decision to make. Do my job or do the right thing. And the truth is, those two don't always line up. I stood there weighing it, thinking about the schedule, the route, the fact that stopping meant explaining, and explaining meant questions. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, then stopped, because I didn't even know what to say. I found something strange in the trash, felt weak. I think this might be important, felt vague. But saying nothing felt wrong, like I'd be choosing convenience over responsibility. I called my supervisor. My voice sounded different to my own ears, tighter, more controlled. I explained that I had a bag I wasn't comfortable loading, that something about it felt off. There was a pause on the other end of the line, longer than I expected. Then he told me not to touch anything, not to move the bag, and to stay where I was. That's when it really hit me. This was no longer just my call. Waiting was the hardest part. Time slowed down. Every sound felt louder. Every movement felt noticeable. I kept replaying the moment I opened the bag, wondering if I imagined what I saw, wondering if I'd made it bigger in my head than it really was. But that feeling in my gut wouldn't let go. It stayed tight, heavy, like it knew something my brain was still trying to avoid. A police car pulled up a few minutes later, lights off, slow. Two officers stepped out, calm, focused. They asked me to show them the bag. I pointed. I didn't touch it again. One of them put on gloves, carefully, deliberately. The way people move when they already understand the situation is serious. They opened the bag further than I had. I couldn't see everything from where I stood, but I didn't need to. I saw their faces, the look they exchanged with each other, the shift in how they stood. That was enough, because in that moment, I knew I hadn't imagined anything. They started asking questions: what time I arrived, how long the bin had been sitting out, whether I'd noticed anything unusual on previous days. I answered as honestly as I could, my voice steadier now, not because I was calm, but because things were out of my hands. They thanked me, told me I did the right thing. I nodded, but it didn't feel like relief. It felt heavy, like I'd crossed a line I couldn't step back over. The rest of my route was canceled. I sat in the truck while they handled everything else, watching from a distance, feeling like I didn't belong there anymore, like the place I stood every day had changed without warning. Later, after I went home, I couldn't stop thinking about how close that bag came to disappearing, about how many times something like that probably does disappear. Not because people are careless, but because they're just doing their jobs. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that bag sitting on the curb, waiting, and the thought that stayed with me the longest wasn't what I saw inside. It was knowing that someone believed this would never be found, that it would be crushed, buried, forgotten, and how close they came to being right. A few days passed after that morning, no calls, no updates, no explanations. On the surface, everything went back to normal. Same routes, same truck, same early mornings. But underneath all of that, something had changed. I noticed it the first day I went back out. I wasn't rushing anymore. Not because I was tired, because I was thinking. Every stop felt heavier. Every bin made me hesitate. Not long, just long enough to notice details I never noticed before. I started paying attention to things that used to blur together. How bags were tied, how many knots, how tight they were pulled. I noticed which bins were pushed far back, which ones were placed carefully, which ones looked rushed. Not because I was searching, but because I couldn't stop noticing. I kept thinking about that house, about how ordinary it looked. No broken windows, no noise, no warning signs. Just another place you'd pass without a second thought. And that's what bothered me most, because nothing about it stood out. Nothing warned me. That bag didn't look suspicious. It didn't look different. It blended in, and that's why it almost disappeared, because it looked like everything else. About a week later, my phone rang. I recognized the number right away. It was an officer. His voice was calm, professional. He asked if I remembered the bag. I told him I did. I don't think I ever stopped. He said they were following up, that what I found mattered, that it helped connect pieces they'd already been working on. He didn't give details, he couldn't. But the way he said it told me enough. This hadn't been nothing. After that call, I sat in my truck for a long time, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel, thinking about how close I came to tossing that bag into the compactor, how easily I could have shrugged and kept moving, how routine almost won. People like to believe crimes are uncovered in dramatic moments, sirens, confrontations, confessions. But most of the time, it isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's ordinary. It's someone noticing something small when it would have been easier not to. I never found out exactly how it ended. And honestly, I didn't need to, because knowing it mattered was enough. Knowing it didn't disappear was enough. Knowing it didn't get crushed and forgotten was enough. The job feels different now. I still collect trash, still work the same early mornings, still walk the same streets. But I'm not the same person doing it. I pay attention now, not because I'm afraid, because I understand something I didn't before. I think about how many things vanish every single day, how many truths almost disappear, not because someone worked hard to hide them, but because no one thought to stop, because everyone assumed someone else would notice. That bag was meant to disappear, crushed, buried, forgotten. It almost was. And that's what stays with me. Not what was inside, but how close the truth came to being lost forever. So now I want to ask you something. If you had been standing there that morning, would you have stopped? Or would routine have carried you forward? How many times do you think something important gets thrown away, simply because no one pauses long enough to question it? If this story made you stop and think, if it made you look at ordinary things differently, let me know in the comments. I read them, and if you want more stories like this, stories about the things hidden in plain sight, take a moment to like this, follow for more, because sometimes the truth isn't buried deep. Sometimes it's sitting right at the curb, waiting for someone to notice. Beneath the bindings,